Welcome. My name's Chris Davis. I'm a ketogenic carnivore nutrition coach, and today I wanted to go over food frequency questionnaires. So, why should you even care about them? Well, to be honest, it's where they get our observational study information from. It's where they get the epidemiological information from. So, what is a food frequency questionnaire? Well, it's a retrospective method that they use where they ask people, what have you eaten over the last month, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 4 years? It's very inaccurate, and I'll go over all that and show you why that is so. So, first off, I did find this article. It was actually December of 2018 from the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology, and it talks about the fatal flaws. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to get access because you have to get it through your institution, but I was able to find their conclusion that they provided. And if you look at this conclusion, they tried to use fancy talk and big words. So I asked Google Copilot to translate the conclusion to put it in more layman's terms because we don't need to get all sciencey about it. And so their conclusion was, and I quote, "We believe that nutrition research has become less credible because it relies too much on questionable, unverifiable evidence. This has slowed scientific progress and created misleading ideas about the link between diet and health. Continuing to fund and use tools like food frequency questionnaires and 24-hour diet recalls, which relies on people's memories, goes against the principles of sound, evidence-based public policy." I could not agree more. If you've watched any of my other videos, and I do encourage you to watch any of my other videos, not because I'm trying to sell myself, but I am trying to spread the word that the studies that we have been told back the evidence, they're evidence-based. Not so much. Not so much. So what I did was I went on the Google machine and I looked up food frequency questionnaires and the ones that I could find, right? Unfortunately, there are several that you have to pay for, you have to be a member, so I didn't have access to those. But nonetheless, I did find enough to prove my case. And if you disagree, by all means, let's chat about it. So the first one I found was Nutrition Quest, right? And it's alive for individuals. And so I said, okay, well, I'll take their different screeners. They had two of them. So the first one is a fat screener, which I found fabulous, right? Because, oh, fat's bad. Fat's going to make me fat. And it talked about everything, right? From hamburgers, hot dogs, bacon, salad dressing, margarine, eggs, cheese, all the way down to French fries, donuts, and ice cream. Yeah, you'll never find me eating that stuff. So I put in the information, right? Shocker, most of the things that I eat are hamburgers, ground beef, beef steaks, bacon, butter, not really, but sometimes if I do cook with something, it will be butter, if it's not the lard that's already on the steak that I'm eating, but eggs and cheese, obviously. Right, and then it goes into what the questionnaire is designed to do, and that, I need to look at the macronutrients, and basically I'm not having that well-rounded balanced diet, right? Because again, that's one of the other loads of shit that we've been fed, is that we got to have a well-rounded diet. So the next screener that I did was a fruit veggie fiber screener, which, as you could probably already guess if you have watched my videos, that was like an epic fail, right, according to their information. So I put in my information and I got my results, right? And it talks about how fiber may reduce the risk of colon cancer and help improve blood cholesterol. No, fiber is not required, as I've stated in many videos and showed evidence on. Fiber is not required, and it doesn't improve blood cholesterol. You want to improve your blood cholesterol? Eat saturated fat. That'll help you improve your blood cholesterol. Obviously, I'm not getting the recommended fiber. For the most part, I don't eat veggies except for romaine lettuce I used to eat. I'm actually not eating it anymore, and I don't eat fruit. So according to this, I have some things that I can work on. Again, the reason that came out, the results, the way that they did, is because the human that put the information in the system said, well, you've got to have a well-balanced diet. And so anything that's not in their parameters of a well-balanced diet I look like I'm deficient somewhere. So that's number one. The next one that I found was the DHQ, so the Diet History Questionnaire. It was actually kind of fun to fill this one out, but again, it has its flaws. So this is a demo mode. This questionnaire isn't like fully active yet, so it just went through it and allowed me to play with it and print out my report. So couple of things that I pulled off of it in the questionnaires, just because I want you to understand like how they're expecting you to answer these. So the first thing they do is ask you, in the last 12 months, what of these have you eaten? And then from there, the system automatically pulls out other questions, which is fine. But one of the issues is, so the first one on the left talks about non-dairy creamer. So my husband and I do drink coffee. We drink 1 cup a day. I'm actually not going to do that anymore. I'm going to take whatever you want to call it, recovery period, a flushing period, where I'm going to go off coffee because I don't really need it. I just like it for something in the morning. But if you look at this down at the bottom where it talks about what creamer do you use, well, all they have is low or fat-free, powdered or liquid. We use sugar-free, so that's not an option here. So I had to use regular liquid, which is sugar-loaded. So that's going to skew the results that I'll show you here at the end. Then it talks about bacon, right? Well, it doesn't separate out. I eat beef bacon. I don't eat pork bacon. And there's going to be a difference there, right? And then it talks about how often you eat it. And again, remember, this is over 12 months. Then it goes into, right, hamburgers, cheeseburgers. And I chose the one not from fast food because I can't stand Burger King, McDonald's, or any of those other crap foods. But the interesting part here is in the bottom one where they ask you how much. So obviously, I make our patties, and mine are 8 ounces, and my husband's are 10. So obviously, it's more than 4 ounces. So that's going to skew it because they're not asking exactly how much we're eating, right? And if I have lunch, I have a hamburger every day with Colby Jack cheese and mustard. Then it goes into the steaks. And again, the steaks is the same thing, right? You have less than 3 ounces, 3 to 7, or more than 7. Well, my dinner last night was a 20-ounce steak. So again, that information is going to be skewed because it's 7 ounces. They're basically making a calculation guesstimate on what you might have eaten. Goes over salmon, right? I don't eat salmon as often, maybe once or twice a month, but I did eat it in the last 12 months. So I put that down. And again, it's usually 2 to 7 ounces, but again, they're speculating on how much that was. So when I got my results, and I did appreciate all the colors they used in the charts, but this is my total calorie consumption on average for the year, right? So it says my target is 1,800 calories and that I ate on average just over 2,000. That's incorrect because on average I eat 3,000 calories a day. So that one's off. If you look at the percentage of calories for each of the macronutrients, right, they have me at 16% carbohydrates. That's because of the non-dairy creamer. I wasn't allowed to put that I was doing sugar-free. And so it changes the numbers. They have me at 32% for protein, 51% for fat. So if you look on the right-hand side, that is my current macronutrients and has been for a long time, right? So I'm 5% carbohydrates, 35% protein, and 60% fat. So I don't know if you can consider that a roundabout. It also gave, right, my select macronutrients and fiber. Well, what did it look at? Right, carbs and proteins and your fiber. Obviously my fiber is almost nil. Well, it is now because I'm not eating the romaine lettuce anymore. But right, they have your target and then what you got. And so it looks bad, like, oh my God, you're not eating enough carbohydrates. Well, again, it's based on the information that the human put into the system to say what the target should be and what it should look like. Then it goes into different groups, right? So you have your daily food group targets. And obviously, if you look at it, proteins, we're good. Dairy, we're pretty good. I don't do like yogurt or milk. I do cheese, right? I do mozzarella cheese, Mexican cheese, Parmesan cheese, Colby Jack cheese. Other than that, that's the dairy. I don't do other dairy, right? Again, the veggies, That's a nil now. Obviously, fruits nil. And grains, that was because when I was in Pearl for a week for work, I was experimenting with their sticky rice. Believe it or not, I could have their sticky rice and not have an ill side effect. So that was interesting. I am always one to be experimenting when I feel like it. Then it went over my vitamins, right? And what it shows. Again, if you look, right, the 7-ounce salmon, well, I could have a bigger one. The ribeye steak, right? I had 20 ounces last night for dinner. And so these are, what they are, right? And that's actually going to be one of my next videos, is how did they come to these daily recommended numbers? Because I think they are for carb burners. They're not for fat burners like myself. So, and then it went over minerals, right? So again, you have all the minerals, however, comma, it doesn't account for portion sizes. Magnesium, potassium, I actually take element salts or salt tea salts, and they have the sodium, magnesium, potassium. So even if that is low, quote unquote, for my daily, I do supplement with that, mainly because I need the magnesium. I was getting really bad leg cramps when I first went ketogenic, and especially when I went carnivore. And so I just find if I have 1 salt a day, problem solved. So then there was another report, and I'm not going to go into the entirety of that report, but I found fascinating because, again, this is average based off the information I put in without exact portion sizes, and it shows that I have eaten way too much added sugar. Again, it was the creamer, and I do sugar-free creamer, so I would love for them to put a sugar-free option and see what that looks like. And then, of course, it looks like, oh my God, you eat twice as much saturated fat as you should. No, I eat twice as much saturated fat as you say I should eat, based on poor science. And then sodium, right? Another thing that we've been lied to about, right? If you have too much sodium in your food that you're eating, it will taste like you took a damn salt block and just started licking the damn thing. And you'll be like, oh, God. That's when you know you've had too much sodium. So then I thought, what are some other, like paper copy, right, where they might email it to you or mail it to you and have you fill out. So I found this one for the St. Louis University, right, and this one was for a month, so it's better than an annual, right? So remember what you ate for a month versus a year. I don't know. Yeah, it's still highly flawed, but, take it for what it's worth. And so they're looking at these different things, and this is what I found fascinating. Average weekly servings. You're looking at a 3.5 ounce steak. So I'm having between 9 servings, 63 servings a week of red meat. And then, right, they talk about the serving size. Oh, they say it's 4 ounces. And so was it large, average, or small? Well, I would consider it extremely large, being that they consider a serving size 4 ounces, which is weird because most of them go by 100 grams, which is 3.5 ounces. But anyways, so they ask you a bunch of things, and then the list goes on and on and on, right? And they do try to give you what a serving size is, but I would love to see the last time that someone measured out a cup of cooked vegetables. I would really love to see that, right? When's the last time you did that? Right, and then it goes on to part 2 where it asks, okay, for example, in the first one, between butter and margarine, right? I almost always use butter. I almost always use margarine. I use both. I don't use butter or margarine. And then, because when I was growing up, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 50. And when I was growing up, it was, oh my God, don't eat butter. It's going to kill you. Eat this factory concocted margarine that's so much healthier for you. And it's like, really? I'll take what the cow made. So then here's another example, right? This is the NHINES frequent questionnaire. This is actually the old bubble fill-in form. But look at how complex it is. And again, this is over 12 months. Over 12 months. How often did you drink tomato juice or vegetable juice? Really? How often did you drink apple juice? Who remembers this? Unless you're measuring it out and you're keeping a food diary for 12 months, you're not going to have a clue, right? And the list goes on, but you can see how inaccurate that can be, right? If you're not doing extreme calculations, if you're not measuring your fluid ounces, if you're not weighing your solid foods, this is going to be highly inaccurate, right? And even with the MyFitnessPal food app or the tracking food apps that they have, right? They ask you how many ounces of whatever. Now I know, right? Because I will weigh my steak before I cook it, right? When I make hamburgers, I actually weigh the meat before I put it in patty form. So I know what my size of my servings are, right? When I have breakfast, it's always 4 eggs. It's always a half a cup of Mexican cheese, right? It's always 3 slices of beef bacon. And so I can be very accurate with what I'm eating. But the standard American dieter, yeah, no. Yeah, no, I'm not convinced. So, what is the moral of this story? So, one of my goals was to try to keep this video short. So, hopefully I did that. We'll see when I hit stop. But just because a study's quoted doesn't mean the results are valid. Remember that. If it says observational, if it says epidemiological, if it says meta-analysis, right? Meta-analysis is just when they take the observational studies, say they have 10 of them, and they look at them all together, right? That's what meta-analysis is. It's not anything fancy. So look, and when you see that and go, okay, well, what kind? Then you find out, oh, it's an epidemiological cohort. Cohort is a group of people, right? Prospective study. It looks back in time, which is where the food frequency questionnaires come from. So just because a study's quoted doesn't mean it's good research. Okay. Also, just because they use the term the experts say, that doesn't mean that they are correct. Okay, because I've noticed or I've learned through this path that I'm on to spread the word of how we've been lied to, that the word expert, it doesn't mean what we used to think it means, right? Because you have people that are bought and paid for, people with agendas, people that are pushing for shit. And so just because it says, well, the experts say you should have 5 to 7 servings of fruit and veggies a day. No, you should not. No, hard pass. Hard pass. Okay? And again, observational, epidemiological, they're highly inaccurate. And then your results are based on what human information was added to the computer system. Because, right, like the one that I did, like I said, it was fun doing it because it was interesting. However, the results are based on what they determined, right? And from what I could see, they determined I should be on a standard diet, right, of getting your fruits and veggies, getting your grains, limiting your saturated fats, right, and having a okie day protein, right? And then doctors know what they're taught. Family physicians get a bad rap, and sometimes rightfully so. However, they know what they've been taught, right? They most likely do not have the time to dive into the research while they're going through medical school, right? They are busy studying for exams and trying to learn all the shit that they need to learn to be a family physician. So don't be too hard on them, but do try to educate them. Though I will say it's difficult because I have now tried to educate 3 family physicians and they all look at me like I'm psycho when I tell them that I eat predominantly meat and I don't eat veggies, I don't eat fruit, and I don't eat grains. They look at me like I've gone un poco loco. With that being said, I hope you learned something. Please, if you like this kind of content, subscribe. I do spend a lot of time creating these videos, and as of right now, it's on my own dime. And this is something that I would love to continue to do and actually make my full-time job. So I will keep making these videos. Comments are welcome. Good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, try not to be an asshole. But, you know, if you have something you disagree, you want to discuss, you want to debate, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's get her done. So, with that, I wish you a blessed day.